Good afternoon. I can hear St Margaret's Church clock chiming 4 o'clock. So welcome to Swinton Heritage Television once again. Under a bit of shelter today because of the weather. What I want to talk about today is talking about the built environment and how that was shaped by man's activities. We've built in stone for many centuries, of course, and local stone buildings were absolutely fine when we were just small villages, collections of farms, small number of cottages. We could build in stone, and indeed Swinton's main medieval centre was all stone buildings. But stone has to be quarried, it has to be moved, it has to be worked by skilled craftsmen. It's an expensive resource and it's a slow resource. And so when the mass movement of people came along in the Victorian Industrial Revolution, or even pre-Victorian Industrial Revolution, there was a massive movement of people from the countryside into the urban areas, and buildings needed to be erected for them to live in, houses, much industrial building, and so we turned to brick. And for some years we've been collecting West and South Yorkshire bricks as Swinton Heritage, because it is a very important part of our community. So the brick manufacturing, bricks have been manufactured for thousands of years, using clay and mud and those kind of materials. But want to really move into the mass production of bricks. And this example here, it says Manvers across it, and this part of the brick is called the frog, and it's basically what anchors the mix in there to help build up the wall or whatever building you're constructing. And so many local brickworks started mass production, and you wanted the bricks to be quite local to the area because they're a very heavy commodity. Now the material that's in this brick compared to modern ones there's no comparison. You probably get about three bricks out of the materials that's contained in these old ones. And so brickworks were built close to the communities, and there were just so many of them. It really is surprising. Often they were a byproduct of mining industry, as this one was with the Manvers, and clearly this identified that many local buildings would have been made from this type of brick. So if you compare the working of stone, again this is the local sandstone. This is from an old building that was demolished many years ago. You can see the difference in labour, how quickly you can build using brick as opposed to having to work stone. The aristocracy certainly got in on the act, and this brick here, it says EF, and that stands for Earl Fitzwilliam. So this brick came, the Earl Fitzwilliam had his own brickworks for estate buildings and farming and walls, and again to associate the Earl Fitzwilliam with his mining interests, we have EFW. This time says Earl Fitzwilliam, so a slight variation on the EF, and this actually came from Skyers Spring, a former coal mine in the Barnsley area. And this brick itself actually came from Elsica Heritage Centre, from a building that had been taken down. And so again that demonstrates that the Earl's workshops at Elsica for his mines, for his estate, for his industrial production were constructed by bricks made from his own enterprise. We have brick from Mexborough here. You can see it's shortened to say the shortened version of Mexborough, and again you'll find these laying around in many places. Mexborough Brickyard was a well-known locality. later became a club, a venue called the Brickyard Club, as I remember. So a little bit further afield we can move to West Melton Brickworks. Another nice example here from West Melton. Sometimes the bricks were not identified from their area, but just by their manufacturer. And this one, a little bit faded, says Armitage. So I'm not sure where the Armitage brickworks were, but I'm sure we could find out. It just says Coalfield, and again I'm not sure where that location would have been, where that brickworks would have been at all. And finally, another example of just an industrial brick, Chamberlain. So another company called Chamberlain there. So as I said before, many of the collieries had brickworks attached. We have Stairfoot here, in the Barnsley area. Now these ones are a little bit faded and a little bit poor condition, but these are both from the Bolton-on-Dearne brickworks, and specifically both of them had an extra groove within the frog. Again, they're designed maybe to help the mix seal it a bit better. So the Bolton brickworks you can recognise by a distinctive line. It's sometimes the lines were on the outside of the frog, sometimes there were no lines at all, but it's just how they decided to make their moulds. A little bit further afield, we have one here from South Emsall, moving into West Yorkshire. This one's a bit of a mystery. It simply says RV. Now we don't know whether this is Rother Valley or if it was the initials of the company. So any information really we'd like to find out about RV, maybe Rother Valley or Rothervale brickworks, or could it be associated with a particular colliery? From moving towards Doncaster now, we've got an example here from Balby, and a manufacturer in Doncaster called Cockin. It says Cockin of Doncaster. And sometimes the manufacturers combine where the name of the company, but also their location. So we have Oakland Brothers of Cudworth. Hickleton, again another one of our lost collieries, a Hickleton brick here. And again moving into West Yorkshire, we have the Hemsworth brick company. Sometimes there were specialist designs for particular purposes, and stamped on this particular brick is it says electricity supply. So obviously it would cover some kind of ducting, and it just let you know that underneath the brick was power cables. So specifically manufactured with that stamp on it. One of our favourites is of course the Kilness brickworks, and there's still evidence of Kilness brickworks in the village, and of course many properties in the village would have been made by Kilness bricks. Now I do have an example of this is the former Queen Street School, and Queen Street School, when it was demolished, we managed to actually recover some of the bricks which formed part of the building, and they were Woolwell bricks, and we have an example of Woolwell bricks within the collection. So it's nice to sometimes tie the brick with what the building was. Moving on to another colliery, we have Carlton, Maine. And again, by identifying with localities, this brick is called Warmfield. Now these were used to build the houses on the Highfield Farm Estate in Swinton in the late 1940s. So I'm sure there's many people in that area will have found these laying around in their gardens, and it's Warmfield. Again, I don't know quite where the factory was, but there you are. So heavy items, and obviously you wanted to build quite close to your own locality. This is a real example of an extremely old brick, which came. This has its own story as well. This brick was formed of was originally part of the Sisters Lich Gate at the entrance to Cretan Wood, and when that was hit by a vehicle around about 5 years ago, some of the bricks were discarded, and I picked this one up from the site. So again, this little brick is called a rustic brick, and it has its own little backstory to it. So some people collect stamps, some people collect coins. We at Swinton Heritage actually have a brick collection, and one day hopefully we can see these displayed somewhere in town, and maybe we can add to the collection, because I'm sure there's many more. We've mainly concentrated on South and West Yorkshire products, but there are many more from North Notts and Derbyshire, and we could really go to town if we got some more donated. So thank you very much. A little bit different today, and the story of brick is quite interesting. So goodbye, stay safe.